All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. So tonight we have a bit more of a design slant. So we're going to be talking about design, specifically Framer and how to use Framer with forms. But yeah, I'm happy to hand over to Liesel, and she's going to be kind of doing a bit of a general intro in terms of kind of FEDSA and what these streams are, and yeah, and maybe also introduce Jorik, and I think then we can take it from there. Yeah. So, Liesel, floor is all yours.
Okay, am I showing my screen?
You are right now.
Cool. Okay, so for those who have joined us for many talks before, this is the new look, the FEDSA new look. We decided to keep the name FEDSA, which used to be Front End Development South Africa. We decided to change it to Front End Engineering and Design South Africa. So this is our new look. Please look out for it. We already have it on meetup.com. We have it on LinkedIn. We're working on a website, but it's not live yet. And then, yeah, just for people who are on various groups, all the way from Slack to Meetup, we have moved to Discord. I think Skulk will drop us the link for Discord in the chat. Please join us there. We're slowly but surely getting the community to move into Discord. Slack is going to be discontinued. So what FEDSA encompasses at this point is front-end engineering, and then we've got design in the name. So product design is one of our sort of subgroups that we service. Then we have mental health in tech, and we've got beginner support. So this is like all the communities we'll be serving within FEDSA from now on. Just a quick shout out to our sponsors, IO and NML. IO is a product and startup builder company. We do a lot of innovation. I represent IO at this point in time, a lot of custom development. And then Justin, who is not here today, he's from NML. And NML is a specialist financial services software development company. We are looking for more sponsors. We haven't actively, done a big drive yet. We were busy with the rebrand up to now. But if anybody wants to get involved in sponsorship, please, joshua@fedsa.org. You can contact him. And then I'm going to quickly just introduce Jorik. The talk for today is called Exploring Native Forms in Framer. Jorik Pienaar is our speaker for today. And yeah, he's actually a project manager at IO. So I've worked with him for the last, I think, 6 years, Jorik. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of space for him to introduce himself. But yeah, that's it. I think, Jorik, you can take it from here.
Thanks, Liesel, and thanks for having me. So just a bit of background and kind of why I am doing this talk. Before joining IO as a project manager 6 years ago, I used to do freelance work and used Webflow for building static sites that didn't require all of the functionality of WordPress or Drupal. More specifically, my smaller clients couldn't afford the maintenance costs of hosting and keeping a database-driven installation that requires constant security patches updated. For those of you who don't know, Webflow is a no-code web development tool focused on helping designers and developers build production-ready websites. So when Mervyn Davis, which is a world-renowned luthier, which is somebody that makes stringed instruments, and my only old client I still do bartering work for, approached me to redo his website. I was looking for an alternative and stumbled upon Framer, which I also introduced to IO to enable our designers to design and build our early stage marketing websites. So Framer is more geared toward designers who want to build interactive, visually driven prototypes or simple website and there's a huge YouTube community which really helps to accelerate things, you know, given my limited time managing a lot of projects. So at first I thought I found the perfect solution, but one very important aspect wasn't available yet, which is native forms. They had integrations available for Typeform, YouTube, etc., but those weren't simple solutions. So I kind of did the unthinkable and just added Mervin's email address to his contact info so the crawlers can grab it and spam the shit out of him. No, luckily he is on Google, so it didn't really affect him that much. But yeah, so recently when tasked with implementing a form for one of our IO clients just a few months ago, I was actually very excited to discover that Framer added a native form builder, and that is what I'll be showcasing today. So let me share my screen. Cool, so let's jump over to Framer. Here we go. So this is my dashboard. As you can see, not a lot happening here. I only have this one bartering client that I still do work for in exchange for his beautiful instruments, which I also play. This is kind of the experimental site where I just play around with stuff. And then here is a kind of smaller, more contained site that's actually live at the moment. And, you know, I thought, what better exercise than actually to fix this issue of me just putting his email for all of the crawlers in the world to see. So that's basically what we're going to be doing today. Just to give you a lay of the land, you have your, usually start with your desktop, and then you can create additional breakpoints for your different screen sizes. And then this is obviously just, there's some nice videos and stuff. If you want to go check out the site, it's mervindavisguitars.com. And obviously this showcases models and some of his social stuff. And then there is the issue we're going to address today. So first off, I want to create a contact page. I've got a kind of template that I can work from to save time, which is just his 404 page. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it, rename it to contact. Then you can see you've got all of your pages here. Then I'm going to go to layers. Let's first work on the desktop. The nice thing is if you do something here, it also does it in the rest of the breakpoints or the screen options. But if you add something new here, or specifically to mobile, it wouldn't add it to desktop, for instance, which is quite nice. Yeah, so I'm just going to get rid of all of this stuff. I guess it is that. Then I'm quickly going to navigate back to the home page. I'll just grab this contact stack, go back to my contact page. I actually, let me do that. There you go. That should do it. Then So this is kind of what we are going to, where we're going to put this form. First things first, let's get rid of this email address. There you go. I'll leave his phone number. He is that kind of one-man shop, you know. He also prefers to speak to people. And he lives in the bushveld, so, you know, his phone is only on at certain times, so he doesn't get bugged and interrupted by people and sales calls. So now I'm going to go ahead and insert the form builder. So we're going to go to the insert menu, scroll down to forms, grab the form builder, drag and drop it in place. There you go. I'll zoom in a bit, then you can see. This is the default form. So just to say this, that one of the coolest things of forms in Framer is that there aren't some rigid code component. They've completely free form, which means you can lay them out and style them with complete freedom. At the top level, we get a frame for the entire form, which comes with a vertical stack applied by default. I mean, you can change that if you want to, but in this case, it makes sense. This frame also has a few special settings for what happens when a visitor submits the form, which we'll talk about later on. But besides that, this is a regular stack that we can resize and reposition. We can change the gap. We can change the padding, etc. We can add fills, borders, shadows, but obviously we will style this a little bit later. Within the parent frame for the form, we have a set of frame each called label that group each input with a text box. Again, these labels are just regular frames, but you can probably tell by the icon on the layer list that these are a little bit special. The icon comes from the fact that in the accessibility section of the properties panel, this frame has a tag called label applied to it. In addition to helping with accessibility and SEO, this label element is also what makes the text layer within it clickable to focus the matching input element. Within each label, we have a text box and the input itself. Framer recommends keeping the text box where it is for the sake of accessibility and SEO. The input layer is where the magic happens. It also acts like a regular frame, but this is the most special element we have looked at so far. Before we dig into its properties, the first thing to know is that this is one of 4 different categories of inputs. This happens to be a text input, but there's also select, which is a drop-down menu of options we set, checkbox to toggle one or multiple options on or off, and radio to choose a single item from a group of options. Each category of inputs has its own properties you can customize. But let's get back to the text input, as there's more to it than meets the eye. These inputs actually have browser native validation, to make sure visitors add properly formatted text. We can tell the browser what to expect by choosing an appropriate type for each input. We can choose between text for a single line of text, like a name, text area for multiple lines or even paragraphs of text, email, which will validate the format of an email address and prompt mobile browsers to adjust the keyboard, number, which validates that the text is a number and prompts mobile browsers to switch to a keyboard with number keys, phone, which will switch mobile browsers to a phone keypad, which is much easier to type on, URL, which also prompts mobile browsers to adjust the keyboard, date, which will provide the browser's native date picker, and time, which will provide the browser's native time picker. I'll keep this first option set. Let me just revert here. For visitors to type their own name. Next, we have the name of the input, which determines how the submitted data should be labeled when we receive it. But before you start making up crazy words because you think you're the only one that will see it, the name of the input also helps the browser figure out what info should autofill if it's enabled. We can also edit the placeholder text that appears before a visitor has typed anything. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove it.
Can I quickly interrupt you and maybe throw some other questions on here that people have asked?
Yeah, sure.
But I think also before we do that, this might also be a good opportunity to maybe touch on why you shouldn't use the placeholder as the name. I don't know if you maybe want to respond to that. So, yeah.
What's the question?
So no, just from me personally. So someone might see this and they might be tempted to get rid of the actual label and instead just use the placeholder.
No, I guess to me it's a bit silly. I like an empty form. It's there. Some people have different standards. I guess it depends on the audience and also on the actual kind of input. But I wouldn't put Jane Smith or
Yes.
John Smith and people know what the email address looks like, and we also have validation, so you don't really have to give them a sample of that.
Yeah, and you also don't want to use that for your label as well, because the thing is with placeholders is once you start typing, it disappears. So you might not even remember what is assigned to what.
Yeah. That's why we have the label.
Yeah. So then there's a question here about what are the benefits of using Framer versus Figma. So I did respond in the text chat, but I'm also curious for you to respond to that as well.
So, I mean, Figma, there's obviously plugins and stuff that you can export to a site and host it. I'm not that familiar with the cloud hosting services surrounding Figma itself, but Framer is literally, you can publish this right here. And if I now go ahead and say update, and I actually go to this new page on the mervyndavisguitars.com website, which is live, it's there. So it's an out-of-the-box cloud website publishing tool as well, where I guess with Framer you kind of need some plugins and convert it to HTML, and I'm really not familiar with the actual cloud services surrounding Figma. Obviously, we use it more for designing things. And obviously we have prototypes and stuff, but this is a website on a custom domain. I don't know if that kind of answers that question.
Yes. Just like for clarification, I think you accidentally said Framer instead of Figma when you said you need plugins and stuff. But yeah,
No,
yeah,
Figma you need.
yes,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool.
Framework.
Yeah,
So
but
it's a kind of so the thing here is this is to
Mm.
me it's pretty similar to Webflow, but more geared for designers. Where Webflow can kind of get a bit overwhelming in terms of the interface because it kind of caters for many things. Framer to me is a little bit easier. As I said, I don't have a lot of time. I'm a project manager. I don't do design and coding much. I don't get time to do it. So I want a solution that I can quickly get a result from that works and is also maintained. So we just load the credit card and I kind of sit and forget.
There you go. Yeah.
Any other questions at this stage?
No, it doesn't seem like I have some more. But yeah, let's keep that for the end. Otherwise, we're never going to finish this talk.
Cool. Yeah. There'll be a Q&A at the end, in case you're wondering. You can, I'm going to delete this, but you can obviously also make things required. I would probably at least require an email address, and I guess I actually want the name associated with that email. Then if you want to insert another input, I'm going to go with text, and I'm going to actually change this input to a text area, and that would be the text area would be the message. That won't be required. You don't have to leave a message, I guess. And I'm just going to update the label accordingly. And then lastly, I also would like to add a checkbox to subscribe to Mervin's newsletter. He's got very interesting stories. And that is out of the box already looks like what I want. So happy with that. Now I can go in here and actually say, I don't need this location, so I'll just select that container. There you go. You can also just copy and paste stuff if you want to. So shortcut keys and all of that stuff works quite well. And yeah, so but this is the basic form. Now I guess I'm gonna start changing a bit, playing with the style. Now I guess you can go really deep here, but what I want is just something simple. So I'm gonna say here, I just want to increase no, actually I don't want to increase the gap. I'm gonna give this form a bit of a border, and you can obviously set your styles and presets and all of those things. I actually didn't go the full Monty on that front with this site. Also kind of still new to Framer, so I kind of just wanted to learn how everything works from the ground up. But yeah, reusable components, all of those things are available. So I'm just going to add a bit of a radius to it. If you want to, you can edit the button, which is a component. So here you can see you've got all of your different states for the component: loading, disabled state, a thank you, error. You can obviously customize this as you see fit. Again, I'm not going to go into all of that too deep. So I guess I would probably want to just add a little bit of spacing here. And now I actually can't find it. Anyway, so the other thing that I would want to do maybe is say, look at the width. This is now fixed, but I'm just going to go, let's go like 75% here. And then on mobile, I actually want to go 100% to fill that container. Cool. There I have my form. Again, you can create a free Framer account if you want to come in and play around with everything you can do. You can do fills, shadows. We can add a little shadow. I always like, I'm very old school, so I still like the little drop shadows. There you go. Now that we're sort of happy with the layout, so I just want to see, I want to just add a gap here. That's what I wanted to do. No, it's not there. It is. It should be there. I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, there we go. So the next step, once you're happy with your form and the styling and everything, then you choose where to send the results. So there is 2 options here, 3 options. The one option is just send it via email. So I'm gonna do Mervyn Davis, new submission. Here you go. I'll send it to my personal address for now to test it. And now I can just go and say, okay, let's publish this, update. Just in terms of the publishing process, if you upgrade to a more expensive plan, you can actually also have a staging environment, and you can roll back or you can stage stuff and get approval from your client, that kind of thing. But yeah, Mervyn, in this sense, he just trusts my judgment, so I can just publish, as I see fit. Back to here. Okay, so I've published it. Now if I refresh, there you go. I'm just going to go cool. Use my Gmail. This is just a test. Let's see if this works. Submit it. Tells me thank you. I also have another option there. But then if we go to my inbox and we go there, you'll see very plainly, it gives you how many submissions you have this month and the contents of that form. Now we can go back here and say, actually, we can't trust email. We want to hook this up with a Google Sheet with a fallback to email when the Google Sheet stops working. I guess you can then actually remove the email if you want to. Then let's just go Mervyn Davis contact forms submissions. There you go. It's connected. Because I've done this before with this Google account, it goes ahead and creates that form. And now it should capture any future submissions. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page and do that again. Testing the sheet. Oh, there you go. There you go. Not going to click the newsletter now. Submit. And then if I go here and I give it. Ooh.
Live demos, man.
Live demos.
Yeah, live demos. Yeah. But so let's
quickly go again. That is very interesting. It's worked every time I've done it. So why?
Well, see if you got an email, because if you got an email, that probably means it fell back and it didn't actually. I also have to say you're a very brave man for just screen sharing your emails just straight up like that.
Yeah, this is not my work one. This is the thing I don't really monitor.
The work one, the dangerous one.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Don't know who's sending you hate mails.
This is also not my Gmail, so this is kind of my defunct company that isn't active anymore. So
let's say it was acquired by IO.
Yeah, so interesting. I got the fallbacks here. Not sure why this isn't. I'll connect it again.
You know what? I think you need to publish it again, maybe.
That is probably right. Let's go through this flow.
Yeah, and then I have a couple of questions as well. So Andre asked a question, kind of that very much kind of preempted what you just showed right now.
If you can see, there's it now actually wants to do the whole access process. So maybe it's good that I actually do this.
Yes.
And
there we go.
Then I add it, and I say Mervyn Davis contact submissions. Oh, now I can't type as well. There you go. Okay, created.
Territory.
Connected, publish, update. Yeah, that is exactly it. Sorry, I missed that step. I should have updated because the form obviously didn't have that.
Can you also click the subscribe to newsletter? I actually want to see how it captures that in the sheet. Is it just like yes or no,
sure.
or and I also assume the names that you provided like matches up to the columns then.
So now I'm going to click on that sheet. There you go.
Nice.
Thank God.
You redeemed yourself, Jorik. Redeemed yourself.
Okay. So it just says on and off. I'd be curious what happens when you change that form afterwards. Do you need to wire it up to a new sheet? Because obviously if you now get rid of like these columns and swap it out for other columns, I'm curious what's going to happen then. But yeah.
So I kind of like that that suggestion. So why don't we actually go ahead and say, hey, we now need some other new thing, and we want to do a select, and it's got location by default. So let's just add that. and we'll publish that, update it, and when we go here and we do our 4th submission.
Yeah, and I think you can also leave that unchecked, so I can actually, it's probably going to say off if you don't check
The
it.
subscribe, yeah. And now we can go Amsterdam or Barcelona.
Fancy. Belleville or Durbanville.
Cool. So here it has added that
Okay.
information.
Oh,
What would be
nice.
really interesting is now if we go ahead and
Completely change it. Yeah.
and
I guess it
change.
maybe just adds new stuff, and if you remove stuff, it just keeps those empty. I don't know.
So I just changed the label, which is a subtle update, and we publish that, and we go straight to the sheet. That actually didn't do the trick, but if we go back here, but I actually only changed, I don't think I changed the input name.
No, you did change
yet.
it. You changed it to the plural.
This is what I should do there, actually.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
It's there. And then we go here. Okay, not yet. Let's refresh it. So does it sync it, or does it sync it only when it gets a submission?
You probably submit, or maybe just keeps it to the original one. That's we're stress testing Framer live. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it actually didn't update it. But yeah, so I guess you kind of need to like know what you want to capture.
Yeah.
At least I think the last test for me would be what happens if I do this. Hopefully it will save the legacy data and just not complete that.
Yeah, most probably.
You don't want to lose that stuff. But yeah, so that's obviously those are the kind of things that you can go and try. And now we're going to subscribe again. There you go. I guess it just doesn't.
Okay, cool.
That's nice. So it doesn't delete the column. So yeah, I mean, and as I said, I'm actually getting each of these emails as well. This would be nice, so I can keep the backup for Mervyn, but also send him an email for each one so he can act immediately.
Nice.
He's not a very technical guy. He wouldn't access a Google Sheet on a daily basis, but he'll check his email, So,
Jorik, I've got a question. Sorry, regarding the newsletter.
Yeah.
If you had like a MailChimp account or something, and you say subscribe to a newsletter, is there a way to let that go directly?
Here is the MailChimp integration with a specific sign up, and it's definitely possible.
Okay, that's cool.
So you can probably also so I saw there was an option for webhooks as well.
That was the last thing that I wanted to say.
And you can probably use like what's it, if this then that, and what's it, Zapier, and like there's lots of services that actually allow you to set up specific flows, like where you listen to a specific webhook and you just point it at that URL that it gives you or something. Yeah.
So you just get your API
really
URL.
Cool.
Also have a fallback, and you can redirect to home. So that's the last kind of thing I will actually just move that empty one.
So so Andre actually asked a specific question about this a bit before, where it asked, so he has a CRM where he captures form data, and he asked, instead of sending an email, can it create and store a file onto a URL for the CRM to capture? So I think you just showed that with the Google Sheet. But if you want something a bit more automated, where you maybe have it like integrate with an API or something, you just use a webhook, send a webhook. I guess it's just a post request. And you can integrate with that. This is really cool. I like this.
And here's the redirect. Takes you to the home page or wherever you want. You can do a thank you page or give them a
Mm.
voucher or whatever you want.
Yeah. So then the big question is pricing. Like, do you have to pay extra for all of that functionality on
No,
top of the?
it's all
Really?
native, and then it's included. And if I
Okay.
go to, I
So
wonder,
and does it rate limit you at all? Does it say? Because I know a lot of these services they say, oh, you can only
yeah,
for free you
I'm
can get 30.
I'm sure it is rate limited. So
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
they
moment,
50.
I'm on
I
the
see.
basic, I
Yeah.
think, or
So
on
you get
the,
500 form
so you get
submissions.
500 form submissions, and
Yes,
then
and
the
also
one
like
thing the one
5
thing I
megabyte
can say
files.
about
Yeah.
Framer's business model is, this is kind of not bad, but as soon as you start collaborating with, workspace plans and get in additional editors and a lot of people working, if you're one person, it's free, but then if you're on a pro workspace, it's 430 per month per additional editor. And if the client wants to edit and you still want to edit, then you have to go with so they kind of catch you like that. So it's and then obviously I'm not really familiar with all of the enterprise options, but for me, like, this kind of basic, it works for me. I'm I'm a lone guy, just managing something for somebody, and then obviously if there's more budget, this can definitely be adopted for bigger companies. If you think, like, I actually have a little bit of a bonus section that I want to show you guys, which is to me extremely exciting. Which is basically when you kind of get into components, and creating components from code, specifically. So if there's not any other questions at the
So
moment.
there's a quick one. I also have
Yeah.
one from my side super quickly, and that is that okay. So there's two things. Do you know if it's possible to do multi-page forms? So where you kind of fill it in stages.
Like, or a multi-page, or even conditional
Or
logic. Yeah, that
yes.
would
Oh
be
yeah, that
interesting.
conditional logic. I didn't even think about that.
Mm.
Do you know if there's anything like that?
It will take me a quick YouTube search to
Okay,
figure
there you
that.
go.
And
Well,
that's the one thing I do want to say. If there's anything that you want to learn about Framer, there's a ton of stuff on YouTube for it, and it's a great community. And I find that, hey, there's actually ways to do most kind of the ordinary things that people want to do.
mm,
So
mm.
I'm not going to say yes because I actually haven't done it myself, but
Say
I'm
likely.
sure it's quite likely that you
Yes,
could,
yes.
because what I show you here is we can probably prompt it to create a multi-step form with
Oh
code.
yeah.
If it's not
Oh,
in
that's
here,
good.
you can create absolutely anything you want.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm. But the other thing is as well is and this is also related to the point about the pricing. Once you hit a certain thing, like it just like spikes, and that's generally the general SaaS model. You get the same with Figma as well. Figma is amazing until you
yeah,
get
yeah.
beyond a certain. Yeah, the same with Notion. All these tools. So they really try and make their money by means of corporates and stuff. But one thing though is in this case is at some point it's probably just get a developer. Like it's probably going to cost you the same than just getting a developer to build the stuff
Well,
if it gets complex enough.
let me show you this. So I'm like,
Okay.
hey, maybe
All
it
right.
would be nice to do. Let's do another page, and we're gonna say this is the tuner, because I don't have a tuner at hand. I want to tune my guitar. I'm here at Luthier's website. I maybe it's a bit of a kind of a ridiculous example, but you know what? Why not? Let's put a tuner in here, and there's a way to do that. So obviously using ChatGPT, and if you don't have the the actual Plus subscription on ChatGPT, you can give it this prompt, which I'll make just
Amazing.
so that it knows what to do. And then basically you go and you say, okay, cool. I'm gonna go to ChatGPT. So I've done this, and it's a long conversation. That's how I kind of do stuff. I was like, I start easy. I like, okay, what do you want? I want a guitar tuner, like no specifics. Here, let's see what this thing comes up with. I copy the code, and I go, okay. I'm gonna go to my assets. I'm gonna add a tuner, which is a new component. Then I'm gonna paste it in here. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna go to that page. I'm gonna take my tuner, guitar tuner, and throw it in here. Now you can see. Okay, so it's picking up something there. Okay, this is cool. It's listening to me. The first time I did it, it asked me, obviously, my browser, can Framer use your microphone?
Yes.
So it does that automatically. And then I was like, okay, that's interesting. So next question is, can you make it more visual and display the 6 strings of a guitar with a red and green lights indicating whether relevant string is in tune or not? And then it goes like, yeah, here you go. Here's the plan, copy the code, and then it's nice. It sort of gives you some release notes. What's new? So it adds property controls, and here you go. Okay. Now I go back to my guitar tuner code. I paste it. I save it. I go back to the contact page. Here we are. Now we at least have this thing. And if I come and say, actually, I don't have a guitar here, but I've got a 5-string fretless ukulele bass, which is actually one of Mervin's instruments that I got for doing this work. If I don't know if I can stop my screen share quickly.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
So here it is. It's a beautiful instrument made from local indigenous, what you call it, indringer wood.
Alien
wood.
Alien plants.
So it's a bit out of tune at the moment. So let's work with this tuner.
Can you see the screen again?
I am on my way.
Okay.
And so yeah, let's get back to this side. So we have this tuner. It's not really detecting because this is too low, and it's detecting things that I don't want to detect. And then I just go and say, okay, cool. I'm gonna go back here to my ChatGPT and say, add a setting that allows me to change the tuner from a guitar tuner to a bass tuner that caters for a 5-string bass. Cool, okay. Copy code, and then I go into my Framer again, paste this in here, save it, go here. Now I've got a setting here that says tuner mode, guitar or 5-string bass. Now I've got BEADG, and if I go, I can see that's close. Not 100% yet. You can see green starting to happen. So then I take it a step further, and I am gonna go with let me just, sorry that I'm skipped my prompt. Okay, so there's the setting. It gave me the little release notes. And then I say, introduce an orange color between the red and green as I get closer to the correct frequency. make it blend between the 3 colors, and add a visual tick indication when hitting the correct frequency. So cool. Again, that's kind of from my experience now, user testing this new thing live as a non-coder. There you go. Now I'm like, okay, I'm getting closer. No, I'm too high. Oh, there you go. Can't find it like, there you go. Still not great, So then I'm like, okay, let's then carry on with this conversation and say, add the correct frequency and text next to the string name. Because then I at least know what frequency to go for. So now I know, I need to go for 98. But something I'm realizing here, it's hearing the bottom row, the root note, but there's also a thing called harmonics, and it seems to me like it's also picking up the harmonics. So then I was like, okay, let's address that. Could you limit the modes to avoid the tuner picking up any harmonics outside of the instrument frequency range? Again, just go and paste the code. I mean, you can climb into the code and do your own tweaks if you want to. Now, much better. As soon as I took away those frequencies, you can see that's good. Now I go with D. So if I tune it down, it's close, closer. There you go. And so on and so forth. So lastly, I think I did some more things to it, which was add an up and down arrow indicator next to the detected node to show the user to tune up or down, keep it displaying at all times, and show a tick if it is at the desired frequency, which I think was my last prompt for this tuner. And there you have it. I quickly, in half an hour or so, got a tuner that
That's
can
pretty awesome, Jorik.
tune my bass. And you can think of anything and come here and experiment like this. It could be anything. That's the thing. And that's what I'm thinking is like, it's a hell of a shortcut. But to do something this advanced so quickly, to me is super powerful. So that was my bonus to Framer. Like, if it is not in Framer, you can actually come and put it in here, with a code component. I'm sure if you ask it to create a form or a multi-page form and stuff, you can also, and you're very specific, you can actually also accelerate your workflow like that.
Cool. I see it actually uses React under the hood. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, so I could definitely see like a use case where if you have a designer or someone who needs to add something. So this was obviously a very specific use case, and I think this is the type of stuff that what's his name, GPT, like really excels at. But obviously now you get into more like fuzzy spaces and things where you need to talk to specific APIs and whatever, and then like it's not that then you maybe need to get a developer in. But it's nice seeing that you can then just like create a little React component. And you can just give them the code, and they can just pop that little widget that you've written in React for them in there. Do you know if like so? What I'm curious is like, are there like kind of plugins or stuff that people publish, like this type of thing that you can just like pull in, like a third party thing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what
Mm,
those are. Basically, people sell these kind of things,
nice,
and then
interesting.
people buy them for money. But I'm like, hey, if you can actually use this prompt,
Yeah.
that could actually you don't have to pay for these kind of things, because to me it's like I want to get my hands dirty and I want to experiment. And
Mm,
even as a designer, and I mean I can do a bit of front end and I understand CSS and all that stuff, it's fun, but I don't have the time. But I think it's not really taking away from the developers. It's exploring the design solution and crafting it quite rapidly. So it's kind of
mm,
rapidly prototyping it until you use,
mm,
okay, this is kind of what I want. And then you say to a
mm,
developer, hey, this is kind of the idea or the prototype. Um,
mm,
Now let's take that as a baseline and develop it further. Where
mm,
if you come with an idea and they have to spend all of the time getting the basics right, then you blow your budget. And that's obviously
mm,
how
mm,
other people are doing the same kind of workflows to accelerate stuff and
mm,
get a better result at the end of the day for less runway. And that kind of
mm.
I think a bit like that these days. So it's not
Yeah,
taking away, it's actually like pushing stuff and like on the shoulder of that giants kind of
yeah,
mentality.
yeah,
What's already there, I'm not going to spend any or as little time wasted and money
yeah,
wasted on stuff that's there already.
yeah.
um
Yeah,
but yeah,
and
that's kind of
no, as someone who does development as well, like I'm all for that. I think that also frees up developers to solve more interesting problems than building a tuner. So yeah, no, that's really
exactly.
cool.
There's
Yeah.
many tuners out there,
Hey,
but
that
I
wasn't
was
Lisa was like, oh my word, I can't believe he said that. But no, like no, I mean it. Like it's like
I mean,
what's really
I
cool
was
about
in,
these
yeah.
tools, yeah, is for example, even just Framer, like that means that developers can just like actually full on build their own HTML and stuff. Um, and that means developers can solve more interesting problems like, adding offline support or making it that it loads faster from the database or whatever, and not move
No,
things around and toggle things until it works. Yeah.
I obviously wanted a way to show Mervin's instruments to everybody. Like that's
Yeah.
also
Oh,
I'm
that's
a,
also
I'm
true.
a I'm a
Yeah.
big fan. So that's why I did the tuner, just to kind
Uh,
of bring the actual instrument
I
into
say.
his
So
thing.
next, so Liesel, next session, Liesel's going to introduce, and she's going to say our sponsors NML IO and Mervin Guitars.
Absolutely. I should have
Yeah.
said, I should have focused on the fact that Jorik is also a musician right at the start,
Yes.
which I
Yeah.
Yes.
didn't do.
No, I actually
Yeah.
studied jazz, so that taught me to improvise, and
Mm,
that's why I kind of find ways to
yeah.
achieve things with any means possible.
It's
But I mean,
interesting how
that's
many, yeah, it's interesting how many people from kind of the arts are kind of in this space. Like so my background is actually in fine arts. I actually painted like before I realized like I need to actually money to survive. And Justin's is in literature, and Skalk Neetling, who's someone that I often do podcasts and stuff with, his background's also in classic guitar. So it's always find it interesting how many people from the arts find themselves in kind of tech spaces. But yeah. So there's a question here. Sorry, I've been neglecting this one a bit. I should have pulled it up a bit earlier. But effectively, so Andre asks, Bitcoin miners love to advertise their products using forms. So is there a way that you can have buzz names to kind of like, can you filter? Is there a way to say like, if it has these type of words in it or whatever, just mark it as spam, or some type of like thing that just is able to pick up spam. I know, if you look at like WordPress and so forth, I think it's Contact Form 7 is the main one that everyone uses. There, it has some stuff that you can do in terms of like preventing bots from submitting and so forth. Do you know if there's anything like that, or do you know if that's something that Framer just does automatically without you having to configure anything?
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, this is also, I think for my purposes, when using this thing and seeing the thought that went behind this, I think there's quite a lot happening in the background. I mean, I didn't show the built-in validation and stuff, which is there in any way. But I do think there will be an extension for that sort of thing. You'll be able to add Google Capture if you want to, or then obviously these days you kind of don't actually do that even more. So yeah, I'm sure there might be a way to plug that in somehow. But yeah, like this was a very beginner's guide from somebody who doesn't, I don't really do Framer professionally, but I just kind of wanted to illustrate how easy it is to get going and explore this yourself further. And as I said, like there's a ton of resources on YouTube. I've been finding it, if there's anything that I get stuck with, I just go to YouTube and quickly double speed some more other video, and I'll be able to work through that issue on my own. And I guess you can always ask your favorite chatbot as well.
Cool.
We need to do a talk around that as well. Every talk brings a new topic, but
I just I see the so the thing is, like, what I would get is so that code that you just generated, like if someone would send that code to me and I have to read that. Like, so I don't like, so that's the that's the side of AI that I interact with. So
yeah, I know exactly. Explain this, add comments.
Yes. So I also just quickly Googled, it seems like there's an entire Framer marketplace, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it is quite huge.
Yes, because I know, as mentioned, like I've had experience with Webflow before. I've actually even taught Webflow. But I think one of my things with Webflow was always that the themes and the stuff don't play that nicely, and there isn't like a massive like kind of library that you have, for example, with WordPress. Because I think a lot of people's quote unquote frame when getting into these type of low code tools or no code tools is the kind of frame of reference is usually WordPress, because WordPress is kind of like what a lot of these things were built with beforehand, or maybe still to this day. So the site you just showed now is something that would have been done with WordPress, and so then, but the thing is, what the compelling story that you have with WordPress is just this massive ecosystem of themes and stuff, and I've never really felt you got that with Webflow. So I'm curious to see.
Yeah, it wasn't that largely or widely adopted. And then where they lost me is I actually also had the whole subscription and everything, and I was building sites, exporting them, hosting them where I wanted to, and then they kind of realized, like, wait, we made a mistake or something, and they kind of adapted their models to now not support form submissions anymore if you export the site, and it kind of, they went in another way for me. Yes. And then obviously I didn't have to do all of that anymore. Yes. And I joined IO and stuff, and then when I got back, I was like, do I really want to do this with Webflow? What else is out there? And I stumbled upon Framer, and I think it's a much simpler solution that is also very widely adopted.
Yeah. So, like, I also have to mention that I do also think these tools take two different approaches. I think Webflow is much closer to the metal, which makes it harder to use
Yeah.
because I don't even want to go into the specifics, but the actual tools we have to build web apps and websites, like from a coding perspective, is it is a dumpster fire. Like, and there's various reasons for it. The one is backwards compatibility. For example, like if the very first website that was ever created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee still works to this day. You can go to it and it still works. So you can't break backwards compatibility. So the problem is if you make a mistake in terms of like kind of the TC39 and W3C, the guys who kind of decide how the language HTML and CSS is going to evolve. If they make a mistake, you can't ever go back. There's actually spelling errors in the HTTP protocol and so forth that they had to keep in because it's there now. You can't go back and change it. Yeah. So the thing is, what Webflow does is Webflow kind of exposes that. So the plus side is it gives you much more control because you're much closer to the metal. But the problem is that you open yourself up to all the grossness that is the web platform. Whereas I think what Framer does, it abstracts that away from you. And because I actually saw that it uses React as well, whereas I think Webflow just like spits out like basic HTML and CSS. So like what you get spat out from Webflow is also much, once again, closer to the platform, whereas Framer has a bit more of an abstraction. So it's kind of like, what do you want? Do you want a GUI that gives you a lot of control, but kind of is still close to, like, very close to the coding side of things? Or do you want something that's like, I don't want to touch any of that. I want a nice way to do this without understanding under the hood what it does. And it depends on what your use case is.
What you have time for.
Yes. And that's actually very encouraging because, like, I think with these type of things, like, people tend to really like get caught up in tribalism. Like we saw that in a while with Sketch and Figma and XD and those things where so it's nice that these two tools have very clear different like kind of market segments that they serve, so that you don't spend all your time arguing with people whether Webflow is better or Framer is better or so forth. Here's a great question.
Security was always a big concern to me. That's kind of why I went, hey, does this website really need a freaking database? Because as soon as you have a database, you have to start doing patches and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of, for me, like moving in here, I've got a guy paying his 170 Rand a month. The rest is taken care of. I can't manage security patches on all the plugins I've got on WordPress and that kind of stuff. In my spare time, I prefer to do music. So
yes. But so the flip side of that, it's kind of pick your poison, because the flip side of that is, because Framer is proprietary, if they tomorrow decide, actually, now it's going to cost 3,000 Rand a month.
Yeah, I know exactly.
What do you do? So whereas with WordPress, you have control over everything. It's open source, so it's kind of pick your poison.
What is the size of your endeavor and how much you're willing to risk? So
yeah,
I would say this, as I said in the beginning, I think this is great for like a entry level startup, like marketing site, these kind of things. But as soon as you run into that kind of risk that you're saying, you probably want to have more control.
You're not going to build the next Facebook with Framer, no. So here's a great question. You did mention videos quite a lot. What are YouTube channels that you recommend for Framer? I would assume the actual Framer themselves have a YouTube channel. Are there any others?
Yeah, so I like one called Framer University. Framer themselves, not bad. But the Framer University one is where I got this make any framer component with ChatGPT. And I will actually also,
Yeah.
that link that I gave you earlier is literally the prompt that you give ChatGPT if you don't have the Plus subscription and can get the Framer GPT agent.
Oh, this Google Doc. Okay. I was
Yeah, yeah.
wondering.
So,
I was
so
wondering why
you,
you
you,
sent that to me.
you
There you go.
copy paste that in, and that's all explained on this specific video here. So you can probably share that. But yeah, I guess between Framer themselves, Framer University, I've mostly come right. I can probably do a quick search on my history and just see if there's anything else that come up on Framer.
This man is brave enough to show his inbox. I don't know if he's brave enough to show his browser history.
Yeah, there was some crash course from Flux Academy.
You can always add it afterwards. You can
Yeah,
always send
we'll
it to me and
probably
I'll
do a
just add it too.
post on LinkedIn and so on. Then you can drop some links there.
Listen, the majority of the stuff I'm doing was from Framer itself and Framer University. There was this specific nested links warning from somebody that I wouldn't necessarily actually want to share. So yeah, I think those two, but I mean, people know how to search Google, so
Okay, nice.
I wouldn't really recommend anything else. You kind of need to find it yourself.
Ask ChatGPT. Yeah. Okay. So you can't see the comments. Just a lot of comments in terms of like just saying like thanks. This is really great.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cool. And yeah, I agreed. Like, thanks so much. This was phenomenal.
Thanks,
I'm glad I stuck around till the end. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
That's the thing. If you can achieve things that you imagine on Figma, but if you find this kind of platform or workflow where you can actually test out ideas on your own, like, to me it's really powerful. And it's and also the way that you work with ChatGPT, where you just have this conversation, and it just kind of, the ideas come naturally because you are now interacting with this thing that you're building basically real time. So you can definitely feel, but wait, let's limit, it's picking up some harmonics, and you think about things that you would have never thought out of the box. And to me, that quick turnaround, and yeah, I think that's what makes this specific bonus workflow for me quite powerful.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, Jorik. Liesel, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say in closing to end us
No,
off.
nothing from me. Just
Okay.
yeah, it was really cool. Thank you, Jorik.
Yeah. So
thanks, everybody.
So on my side, maybe just a quick mention. So on Wednesday, we are doing over lunchtime a CSS breakpoint. So if you want to dive more into kind of the CSS side of things and the coding side of things, so I'm going to be speaking with Xandor. And we're just going to be chatting about kind of what happened this month in CSS and so forth over lunchtime. So there will be a live stream of that as well. Right, but otherwise, yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Have a great evening and hopefully chat soon. Bye-bye.